Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using the Peace, Love, and Joy sentiments, the Birch Trees cover plates and the stencil, and then also the Lovely Layers Deer. So I had this kind of vision in my head when I first got the deer, how cute they would look with these birch trees, and I love the birch trees. Like every year since they have come out, I use these birch trees in the winter, and I still am not tired of them. I think they're fantastic. If Honeybee ever retires them, I'm going to be so super sad. So anywho, we're going to talk a little bit about some colors. We're going to talk a little bit about how not to make your deer, and if we have time, we're going to have a little bit of really funny story time. So let's talk about the colors first. I really wanted to do kind of like this magical little winter forest. And so typically for that, I would reach for blue. I decided this time around to go for more of like a Tiffany blue to make it look, if you go with a true blue, it can look maybe more of like a night scene. I didn't want that. I wanted this to be really kind of nice and bright. So my deer would really, kind of pop out from my scene. And so I covered the background in Salvaged Patina. And then I went back in with the first stencil, and I did the Salvaged Patina, and now I'm adding a little bit of shading with Peacock feathers. You may be thinking to yourself, like, Kelly, these are not Tiffany blue, these are like teal. But as you build up the color, especially once you add in like the Mermaid Lagoon, which is more of a blue, it really does start to look more of like a Tiffany blue color. So then from there, I have to make a decision about what other colors I'm going to add in. This is my main color of my background. I know that my deer need to be some type of neutral color. So here is how I got to where we are, and this is why when you look at the card, instead of it just being like, oh, that's cute, you're like, oh, look at those deer. And it's because of the color choices. So we talk a lot about complementary colors when you're watching my videos, and complementary colors are opposites on the color wheel. Now, blue-green's opposite is a red-orange. So you may be thinking like, Kelly, your deer are not red-orange. And you are correct. They are not. But knowing that red-orange is blue-green's opposite and complement, when I'm picking my browns, I know that if I pick a warmer brown, which means it's going to be more on the red-ish side, like it's going to be a warmer color profile versus a cool, which is more to the blue, that by going with a warmer brown, it's really going to help it kind of pop off of my little scene here. So I did all the stenciling of the trees. Now I'm going back in and I'm adding a little bit of shadow kind of around the edges. This is just going to help make it look a little bit more kind of like foggy and mystical and magical, this little winter forest we're creating. I'm going to cut both of the cover plates, so 1 and 2 for the birch trees. I did cut them apart and cut them separately. I don't want you to think I cut them together. I don't even know if that would work. But I did cut them apart. I cut them separately. They are perfectly A2 sized. And then I'm going to move on to the deer. So while I'm die cutting out my deer, I just want to finish up the conversation with the color. So knowing that I have a blue-green, a Tiffany blue, if you will, and then a warmer brown, I did not want to add in a gray. I felt like it was going to muddy up my color combination. And if you've ever been presented anything from Tiffany's, you know that typically their wrapping is just a stark white ribbon. And the reason is because white looks amazing with that Tiffany blue color. So I opted to actually add no shading to my trees. I just left that really bright white pop off of that teal Tiffany blue background. And then that's going to even push my deer further forward, so that they really stand out on the card and they're kind of the wow factor, if you will. So now I've cut out all my pieces parts for the deer. This is where things start to get a little funny. Like, funny, haha. It may be a little terrifying, honestly. So I cut out all the pieces parts for my deer. I have the layer guide. Honeybee always has, in case you're not familiar with the layering guides, they're always available on their website. You can just bring them up. And print out the PDF if you would like. I just typically bring them up on the computer. So, that is what I did. I brought it up and now I'm looking at that so I will be able to tell where all of my pieces parts go. However, I did not put this together beforehand. You guys are seeing the first time I built it, the first time that I built it. There's no practice shots. And it's funny how different people approach things differently. Like my girlfriend, Dawn, she always kind of like does a pre-card before she turns on the camera. And I'm always like, girl, you're wasting footage. Like, what if that comes out amazing and then you're going to have to remake it all over again? She doesn't care, which is totally fine. I just make it on camera and then I get what I get. And this time it was terrifying. So when I was looking at the deer, you know, I can see, because lovely layers are so well done, you know, they emboss all of those pieces as they're die cutting them. So I can see where the leg needs to be, where the chest is going to be in front of the body, like all those things. Also, something to know, there is a die for the hooves. I chose not to cut it out. You guys already know that smaller die cuts are a challenge for me. I wasn't going to add to my personal struggle by also cutting out the hooves. I just colored them in black right on the deer and it was totally fine. So after I did the feet and the bodies, now I'm looking at the pieces, and it is a little bit challenging for me because I can't see it in my mind yet how those little pieces are going to turn into this cute little buck and doe. So I'm trying to look at the computer and then go back and make sure I'm finding the right thing. And let me just go ahead and tell you, I didn't. I did not find the right things. So I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going to show you the end result, and then I'm going to show you how I fixed it to make very, very precious little deer. So the first mistake that I made was when I was gluing their faces, I glued the wrong face to the wrong deer. There is antlers in this set. I chose not to use them. So instead of this being December, we'll call it February, and our buck's antlers would have fallen off. But anyway, I chose the wrong size face. Do you see how small this face is? I don't know even what was going on in my brain, because I know lovely layers layer perfectly on top of each other. So I don't know why I thought that fit, but I'm going to build this whole face, guys. I'm going to build this whole terrifying face, and then I'm going to transfer it from one very frightened deer to another very frightened deer. Basically, what I did wrong was the portion around their eyes should be light. It should be a lighter brown, and I colored it black, which basically made them look like an absolute horror show. You're going to see the whole thing here in just a minute. And then once I did it to one deer, you would think I would be like, that doesn't look right. And I did. I gave myself pause. I was like, that does not look like that is supposed to look. I don't think so. Like, these deer are so cute. And see, do you see them? Do you see this little tiny terrified face? And here is where I realize when I'm going now to build the doe, I realize that the buck's face is wrong. That this face does not fit on that face. So now I'm just going to pull the whole thing up. And I'm basically going to do a face transplant, if you will, of these deer. So I'm just going to lift the whole thing up and I'm going to move it right over to the doe. And then I'm going to keep building so that both of them have this terrified face. They look like if a cow and a deer had a baby. That's what their little faces look like. It's terrible. It's so terrible. But you guys may be surprised to find that this is not the first time that I have done something like this. And that is where story time comes in. So, years and years ago. So here's both of my terrified cow deers. Dows. Cadows? What are we calling them? I don't know. But anyway, I've pulled off their faces completely. I'm going to recut the pieces, and I'm going to do it again. Persevere, my friends. We can't always get it right on the first time, and I certainly did not. So the doe face I was not able to save, so I just cut a new one. I recolored them in their correct colors, and then I am going to rebuild them the correct way, and it was much, much easier to do the second time around. So just know that even if it's not this type of die that you're using, if it's another type of die or a shaped card or whatever, like just know the first time that you do it, that will be the most difficult that it will ever be. It will only get easier with more practice. So, years ago, I was on a design team, and I was on a design team for a company that was owned by my friend. My friend is Dawn. You guys are all aware of this. Now, she is no longer running her own company, but at the time she was, and I was on her design team, and we were BFFs. So, I did this. Oh, it was so funny. I did she had like little girls, and they were like such sweet little girls. They were like two like little curly headed girls, like little toddlers. And they were totally adorable. And I put them like in a field of flowers, and I watercolored it, and everything was no line. Okay. So there's nothing black in here at all. But I wasn't really familiar with no line coloring. And I didn't really know what I needed to do. So I just fell back to what I knew. And what I knew was using a fine liner. You guys, I made those poor precious little angels look like monsters. Like they looked like monsters. It was so bad because everything, like they had very soft features and little precious little curly hair like my little jelly bean does right now. Like she's just absolutely beautiful. And then instead of going in, which by the way, the answer is a colored pencil, in case you wanted to know, in case you find yourself in that situation, the answer to the question is a colored pencil. That is how you would add those fine details back in without making your little sweet little angelic cherub faced girls look like absolute monsters. But I went in with a fine liner, and then they were black. Like their eyes were black, their nose was black. It was terrible. It's so terrible. So anyway, I like took my pictures of it like I normally would do, just like I did here. Like I was like, ooh, this don't look right, but I'm going to keep going. Like I'm just going to keep working through it. And a lot of times when something doesn't look great, like I know I have to push past the ugly. If, you know, for watercolors and everything else, and in the end, then it's going to be okay. So that's what my brain is kind of trained to do. But sometimes, guys, sometimes in very rare circumstances, it is not good. And that was the case with my little deer faces here, and that was the case with those little cherub monsters. It was not good. And so, oh, we got to go back to the card. So here what I'm doing is, now I have my deer done. I love them. They look totally adorable, so much better, and exactly what I was expecting to get out of the beautiful, lovely Layers series. But I wanted them to have a little bit of ground. So I'm just going in, drawing some little snow slopes. I'm going to trim those out, erase the pencil lines, and then I didn't even add any shading. Like when I say that I wanted the contrast, like I wanted that stark contrast, I really did. So I left everything pure white, and then you can see that beautiful Tiffany blue, and it just pushes those deer so far forward with those warm kind of chocolatey browns. I love this card. It's a super simple card, but I love the way that it came out. Like look at those deer. They're like, bam, hello, out here in this beautiful snow. So I am going to erase that, and then I am going to add some snow into the background with some spatters, and I'm just going to build it up layer by layer so that I'm not putting too much snow over my little deer. I also did the sentiment in white, but heat embossed in gold. Gold works really well with a Tiffany blue, also with the warm brown. So that was just a I don't know, a pretty much not a choice for me. Like it was chosen already. And I chose to do the Wishing You Joy. But the peace one would be great for this type of scene because it's super like serene. Any of them would be great. This is a great sentiment set. So anyway, back to the story. The funny part, obviously, like the little cherub monsters I've created are not, that part is funny in and of itself. But I sent the pictures to Dawn, who, I don't know if you ever found yourself in a situation where you have to tell your best friend, like, maybe something that isn't really great news and you're not really sure how it's going to go over. Because we were besties, but it was pretty new in our friendship. And it was still new in our working relationship. So she and I were on the phone and we were chatting and I said something about the cards. She was like, yeah, and like you could just tell, and she is pretty much a straight shooter. Like if she's struggling to say something, you know that there's something behind it. And I was like, it's the faces, isn't it? She was like, girl, I don't want to hurt your feelings. And I was like, I know it's bad. I know it's bad. I didn't know what else to do. And so like we still laugh about it now and it's 10 years later. Like when a card starts to go like a little sideways for her or for me, we'll be like, ooh, that monster girl. It's got the monster girl face. So it's like kind of become a running joke now. But it just was but it's just because I had trained myself to like just push past it, because past the ugly, it might be something that's going to be really, really good. But in this case, there wasn't. In this case, the deer were not, they were a little scary. It was scary there for a minute, but trying again. I'm all for perseverance. I'm all for not giving up. But sometimes you might just have to try something a little different, like we did here, and lightening up the colors. And then that made it, that really made all the difference in the world. So I'm just going in, I'm building up my layers, and each time I'm kind of adding some more snow. For the background layers, I am using this Copic opaque white ink to create my snow. Really, really enjoying using this lately. It adds a little bit of texture, like you can feel the snow sitting on top of the surface, and I really like that. And then after, you guys know that I cannot have snow without some shine. Like I can't just have plain white snow, because when you look at snow in real life, like the sun is hitting it and it's very reflective and glittery and beautiful. And so I did want to recreate some of that shine that you would see in real life. So after I get this last little birch tree on, and I thought it was super cute, like the little doe's kind of like peeking out behind one of the trees where the buck is like up front and center. I really, really like the way that this card came out. I think they're absolutely adorable. So then I'm going to put his ground in and then put him in, and then that will be all the characters for the card. We have the sentiment to add, but before we add the sentiment, I am going to add a little bit more. No, did I do it after? I can't remember. Let me look at the card. I might have done it after I did the sentiment. I thought I did it before, but it doesn't look like that is the case. No, did I? Guys, I don't know what's happening. We're gonna find out together here in just 1 second. So I'm doing the white over top of the buck as well. And I am being very careful just to make sure they're fine, like a fine mist of splatter, because I don't want it to look like a blizzard. I just want it to look like a little bit of cascading snow. And then I am going to add just a little bit more shine with my Perfect Pearls. I'm going to go in and mix that with some water and then just dust that over the background as well. This will give me 2 different kind of looks. Then I'm going to put my sentiment on. I thought I did it before I did the sentiment and not after, but You know, I made this card a few days ago, and my brain isn't as sharp as it used to be. So here, doing the sentiment, I just adhered it down flat. You absolutely could glue a couple of these together to kind of stand them up. I didn't really feel like it needed it. And then I use this is like my go-to lately, this metallic mixatives. Look how many you're missing. Do you see how many you're missing? It's such a good pack. But I chose these kind of pale gold pearls, and then I'm going to accent my sentiment with that. And then the last thing I'm going to do is, again, for even more shine, I went in with a clear glitter marker, and just went over the most forward trees. So the top cover plate as well as the bottom layer of snow, like the more forefront layer of snow. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So I hope that this encouraged you to know everybody makes mistakes and persevere, but sometimes if it really, really, really isn't looking like it's supposed to look, shift gears. It's okay. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.